So I'm like I told you before that I'm starting to take money from family and friends,
Hmm.
and helping them invest it as well. What should I look out for? Am I doing anything illegal yet?
Okay, it's on. Oh my gosh.
Here
Okay,
we go.
there we go. All right. So, oh my God, this is good. I have Jordan Garcia here, which this is going to be fun. We're literally just going to chit chat about how we met, how you got into the lending space, what you're doing inside within the real estate space, and a few learning lessons because I know you've been through some crazy stuff. So
Oh
we're
yeah.
gonna share. We're gonna share that. That's gonna be like super exciting, like how you navigated that entire situation. But really, like as I said, this is super informal. So I wanted to first to talk about like how we met, which is how did we meet again?
We
Oh,
met. I'm trying to think too. When you
it
mentioned that, I was
was
like, oh shoot, how did we meet?
David Fornelli. So you went to a
Oh yeah,
conference.
yeah, yeah. Yep, I
Oh,
had a property that was zoned for a hotel, and I was like, going through exit strategies. I was thinking of refinancing or selling, and then I figured out, what it was zoned for. It could be used as a
mhm.
hotel, and I had just met David at a STR
Welcome.
conference, um, and yeah, he connected us together.
Man, that's was that like a year ago?
I think it feels
Oh
like
no,
longer.
it feels long. It is longer.
Yeah, maybe a couple years
A
ago.
couple. Oh, that is insane. Just one mutual friend connected us, and then we reached out to each other on Instagram, and then from there we met
Yep.
at a meetup, and then
Yeah.
it's been insane. And now we're in communities together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Oh
Yep. I
man,
mean,
this
that's
is
how it
fun.
turns out. Like real estate is small, and people add value by connecting other people. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's
it's
wonderful.
literally your network. So the crazy thing too is like, so I know when I met you, you had a triplex
Hmm.
that I think was it a long-term rental or something like that that you were trying to change over?
I think at that point I was transitioning it, at least two of the units to short term. I think I
Hmm.
was like, and I was just now getting them furnished and rented out on Airbnb.
Hmm. And then
But
because
one
and
of the
then you
units,
ended up selling it, but you ended up selling it, right?
yeah, I sold it in May of this year.
Ah, got it. What I'm even so excited. So you were doing the investing side. You're also an agent. Did
I
I?
do too
Yeah,
many things.
you
I
do a
also own
lot
an
of
appraisal
things.
business.
An appraisal business. So if
Yeah.
you need like an appraiser, like he's ideal for that as well. So he's wearing many hats. So all of the out of those hats, plus you're also a private money lender. Which hat would you say is like first priority, second?
The last 2 years, I've been focusing the majority of my time on the appraisal business,
Hmm.
because we're, expanding that. We started in just the Tampa Bay area, and now we're doing private appraisals all over the state of Florida.
Hmm.
So that's, where my focus goes is doing the appraisal business.
No, and I think you
Operations.
bring a ton of value, especially when it comes on to appraisals and stuff like that. Because I know we're in a mastermind, and you did like a full deep dive into things that appraisers look for, and it was super super insightful. And this is why it's so great to like know what people are doing, because then if I know someone that needs an appraiser, I can be like, oh, you can reach out to Jordan. But also if maybe if I need someone being an agent, if you're like, Kels, I'm not really focused on that aspect of it, I wouldn't recommend you refer you to someone unless you're like, yeah, I want to focus on both. So it's like wearing many hats is also is good, but also finding out what the person is really pushing, like what is their main hat that they're wearing or their superpower. And it's crazy. I think when you got into the first of all, before we get into the lending space, why lending? Like you're an agent, you're also an investor, you're also an appraiser. Like what happened there?
So it happened because when I sold the triplex, I
Mhm.
had a pretty large gain that I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with. I knew I needed liquid capital, so a 1031 wasn't a great option for me,
Mhm.
because I'm focusing on the appraisal business. So I'm not like doing my own like direct to seller marketing to find good deals.
Yeah.
And as you know, and as most of the people that are going to listen to this know, it's really hard to find cash flow. So if it's not your main focus, you're not going to be able to find good deals when you're competing with others who are their main focus is finding those types of
Good deal.
deals.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do to keep that money, moving and earning interest was to look into private money lending, because it's something that I knew that I could do passively. And it also lends to my skill set on underwriting deals.
Yeah.
Because as an appraiser, that's basically what we're doing is we're underwriting it and making sure that, what it's going to sell for or what an agent's going to list it at is it's worth, what it's worth, what it's going to sell for or what it's going to be listed at.
Yeah.
So,
And then, no, go ahead.
yeah. So I just thought that, me being able to focus on building the appraisal business and also making my money work for me from a lending standpoint passively made a lot of sense.
Okay. So did you know anyone like who was doing lending that you could go to and ask questions, or you were like, I'm just going to go on Google and do some research?
No, you're the reason why because you started the creative finance meetup
Oh, the
here
meetup. Yeah.
in Tampa. Yeah. The one at the Epicurean. Is that what it's called?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're the first person I thought of. And I know you had a lot of connections and, you're doing a great job connecting lenders with people doing deals. So I hit you up and I think you had a deal for me the next week or so.
Oh yeah, that's true. Man, that was a couple months ago. Isn't that
Yeah.
insane?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Moving
It's
and shaking.
crazy. It's insane because even like when I brought that deal to you though, for you to lend on, was it like, were you scared? Like, oh my God, I'm about to land on this. I don't know what to look for. Like, how did you build that confidence to make a decision that I want to lend on that deal?
Well, I use my underwriting skills as an appraiser to look at the deal before I felt comfortable just, throwing money at it. So I looked at the comps, I saw that you sent me all the information that I needed to use in order to underwrite it, like, what their first mortgage is. So I knew that there was a spread there for me to get paid what I wanted to charge for an interest plus, my original investment. So to me, it just made sense. I think there's like a 20% margin there. So, and I moved here in 2018 from Denver to do flips myself. And I did about 7 of them from the beginning of 2019 to like middle of 2021. So I know, how to do that. I know how to run that business. And to me, the safer person in a transaction like that is the second person to get paid rather than the third person to get paid, which is the flipper. So, us being in the market that we find ourselves in today, I'd rather be a lender who, is in line to get paid before the deal makes any profit.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because like the more I go deeper into the space, and yes, I own rental properties and stuff like that, but I was like, I can't wait to get into the lending space because it's, for me, I think it's just safer. It's less headache. It can be so much more passive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I spent like 20, 25 minutes looking at a deal and I've done like 6 loans, I think, since selling my triplex.
That's insane.
And I think 2 or 3 of them have, paid back already. So yeah, it like takes, 20, 25 minutes for me to underwrite it. And then I feel comfortable lending as long as I'm working with a solid operator who, I trust to get the job done. They have a proven track record and the deal looks good. I don't see a huge risk there.
Did you know like the paperwork the different paperwork that was needed before you decided to lend?
I kind of knew. I knew what they were called. I know what a promissory note is and a mortgage, but I didn't know the ins and outs of, like dealing with a title company to get them, like who provides those things. Is that something you could just go on the internet and download? Yeah. So you were super helpful from that aspect because you have you have those documents ready to go.
And make it easier. It's crazy because a lot of times people ask me too, like how I've learned so much stuff when it comes on to lending.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not books. It's literally every single transaction that I do, I learned something
Right.
new. Like now I'm in the middle of one, and one of the lenders, they're completely new. They don't know anything about real estate, and they're like, hey, I talked to my accountant and they mentioned the borrower needs to fill out a UCC form. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. I've never heard
Yeah, you
about
lost
that.
me.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, a UCC. So I Googled it, and it's something where as a lender, the lender would fill it out and file it with the Secretary of State. So it's
Okay.
there to show that the lender gave the borrower a loan. And for me, I was like, okay, if it's that, then what's the point of the mortgage? Because it's also recorded, it's a lien against the property. And I had to
Mhm.
reach out to the title company to confirm what is this UCC thing, if it's mandatory, if it needs to be done. And they also clarified it to say, hey, it's normally used when a borrower take out a loan against a personal property.
Oh,
So I
okay.
was like, oh, that makes so much sense than if it's a personal property rather than an investment property. So I was like, for me, that's new. So now if another transactional lender brings that up, I could say, hey, you don't need it because of XYZ.
Right. So it takes the place of a mortgage?
No, so it doesn't. But when I checked on Google, apparently it could all depend on the state. They could be in the same on the same, what do you call it, level.
Oh, okay, I see.
But I was like, that is also very interesting. And a lot of times I think like your accountant or your CPA or your attorney has to fill it out.
Yeah.
This kind of company that I'm working with, they don't fill it out because they're like, this is personal property, so we don't touch it.
Right.
So now I just have to go back and report and just navigate that entire conversation. But again, learning as I go along and doing different transactions, which these are not in the books.
Yeah. Yeah, you can learn just as much to get started, but then there's some things that you just can't learn from a book.
No, you literally just got to do it. So you said you've done like 6 different loans so far.
Yeah.
Anything where you did one transaction and you're like, man, I should have done this way. Next time, I've learned from the first one. Next time I'm going to do this instead.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
The first opportunity, it actually didn't come from you. The loan that we have done together, that was the second one.
Mhm.
I got connected to a flipper who had a deal in Tampa that he just needed like $25,000.
Yeah.
And it was for a deal that he had under contract, that it was basically just like a lipstick kind of flip. But the numbers made sense. So I told him that, I would lend him the money for 15% flat rate, which that's a solid return. But after that was my first loan. So it kind of, I don't know if I would lend $25,000 for 15%
Yeah.
for 6 months. No,
Mhm.
on a 6-month note, because to me, I could have added that 25,000 to do a bigger loan for a bigger
Return.
return, 15% within that 6 months. So
Mhm.
maybe for like a loan that is less than, I would say, like $35,000, I would require it to be on like a 3 or 4 month note, because I
Yeah.
have a target on my annual rate of return that I want to make on the money if I'm going to continue to lend it, rather than invest in my own deals.
That makes sense. So you going through that, and then you just mentioned something. You have an annual rate of return that you
Yeah.
want to make. How did you figure out like this is the goal that I want to get to? Like this is the return that I want to make on my money. How did you figure that out?
I mean, it not much thought really went into it. It was like, if I can make 12 to 15% lending out money, and
Mhm.
that's and I can do that in 6 months or so. I want to be able to do that more than once a year.
Yeah.
So like at least 24 to 30% a year. I want, if I'm going to continue to do this and make it a business, then that's the return that I'm targeting, because I
Mhm.
want to make sure that I'm investing in deals that turn quickly. So
Yeah.
like if I'm investing in a flipper and they have a proven track record, they can prove that they can finish their projects
Project.
within 4 months, right?
Yeah.
So that means that I should be able to invest that same amount of money 3 times within the year.
Yeah.
And if I'm charging that investor 12%, that's a 36% return on the
Which is
money that's invested there.
which is a damn good return.
Exactly. Yeah, it's better than you can do in the stock market. It's better than any return that I've seen other than, getting lucky on like crypto or something like that.
It's crazy because you see it like I've had lenders who turn down 15%. And
Yeah.
I because they're like, that is not my risk tolerance. I'm
Right.
used to the 10, 12%, and they're happy with that. But then you also have lenders be like, hey, if I'm used to 10 to 12%, but if you ever have a 15%, I'll take that all day. Because for them, it's unheard of.
Right.
But it goes back to like finding that right operator, finding like someone who has proven track record, because that is crucial, and knowing that like that deal is really able to offer you that 12 to 15% return. Because I've
Right.
seen that. I don't know if you have seen it as well, where persons are offering like super high return, and when we go through our underwriting process, we're like, this deal can't even afford to pay the interest payment. How
Yeah.
are you offering this return? Like, where is this money coming from? I don't know if you've ever
Right.
seen them.
I've seen a couple of them. And I just chalk it up to like, well, there's bad wholesale deals out there too.
Mhm.
So, not
Yeah.
every lending deal is going to be a good deal. That's why you got to do your underwriting.
Yeah, it's crazy too because so I know like you're lending a lot of in second position. Would you even consider lending in first lien position?
Yeah, I have one out right now. It's a
In first,
deal from some creative finance investors here. They're a married couple here in Tampa Bay. They have a pretty good
Mhm.
following on social. They're from New York, and they had a deal in their hometown in New York that they couldn't pass up, but they didn't have the money to pay for it, right away. And
Yeah.
the seller wanted to close. So, I think they put it on like a Facebook group or something that they were looking for private money. I just reached out. So I have a $140,000 first position lien on that
Nice.
property in New York.
Okay. And
But
then what
the
made
reason I
you?
was comfortable doing it because
Mhm.
I have no idea about
Yeah.
that about
That's
that.
what I was about to ask you too.
Yeah, like I have no idea about the market, but like you said before, it's really you're investing in the operator.
Twitter.
And
Yeah.
I felt more comfortable because this specific operator was from that's their hometown, that's where they're
Mhm.
from. So they know the market really well. And
Yeah.
he had connections who it was basically like a wholesale deal. So they were gonna buy it and then clean it up a little bit, but not
And
do
then
really
sell it.
much work to it.
Yeah.
And then put it right back on the market. And he was telling me that his realtor, who he's known for years in that area, says that they can get, I think it was like $60,000 or $70,000 more than what they bought it for in the matter of like 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a really like straightforward deal. And the operator was solid. And I just texted him today actually for an update, and he told me that it was under contract already, and they're just waiting on some inspection items, but they should close in like 30 days.
See,
So
that is
yeah, so if everything goes correctly, that one will close within like 45 or 60 days of me sending them the money.
that's wild.
Yeah.
That and it's crazy too. It's like you just mentioned that operator just put it on Facebook and
Yeah.
you reached out. A lot of times people with the capital, they're not like advertising like, hey, I'm a private money lender. They're
Hmm.
out there looking for deals too. So
Yeah.
as operators, we gotta put it out there like you're looking for money, but also state like give the details. Like why do
Yeah.
you need the money? Give the information, and then if someone sees it, they're interested, they'll reach out. I've seen people like, I need a PML for $50,000. I'm like, where
Okay.
the where are the details? What do you need it for? Like you
Yeah, at
are,
least put an address in there.
put something,
Yeah,
it's
put first
crazy.
first position with an address or second position with an address, something like that.
There is nothing, but like even you get into the space, like what's your biggest fear with lending?
I guess not getting paid back.
If
Or,
you said something else, I'll be like, wait, you're not afraid to get your money back.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my biggest and most obvious fear. But to mitigate that risk, you underwrite the deal, you underwrite the operator, and you work with professionals like Kalisha Carter.
No, it's crazy. I think whenever I talk to new lenders, like today I was talking to a completely new person, and I said to them, I was like, what's your fear of lending? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I said, there's a 1% chance you're going to lose your money. Like 1%, 99% it's going to go good. But there's a 1% chance that you're going to lose your money. Will you be okay if you lose your money? Are you able to pay your bills? And they were like, yes. And I was like, okay, your answer is yes, then you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start be like, no, this is the only thing I got, I was like, don't do lending.
I guess one caveat to that, because I'm really close with my family, and so some friends I consider family, and so I talked to them about what I'm doing, and I was telling them about lending, and they wanted to give me money so that I can lend them out, lend their money out, right, on these deals, so that they can get a return on their money as well. So I guess my biggest fear would be to lose someone else's money. Yeah.
That is my biggest fear. I think it's knowing that I connected a borrower with a lender, and it's an issue for them to get their money back. I think that's my biggest fear, because again, I don't have control over the deal where I can make a decision to be like, let's do this, let's do that. Because I've had deals where I think I took like a 4-month loan, or I think it was a 4 or 6 month loan, and I end up have to switch the strategy because the market shifted. And then because of that, I explained to them what happened, and they were okay with it. They're like, listen, I saw your numbers. I had no clue the market would shift the way it did. And then in turn, we kind of convert him being the PML to giving equity.
Okay.
And it's literally like thinking on the spot. And I was like, you know what? I'll give this up. You want tax write-off too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you, and they were happy about that. I was like, oh, snap. So being able to pivot when it's my deal is super easy. But my biggest fear is if I connect an operator with a lender and I can't make that decision, I'm just like,
you don't have the control to do that.
Yeah. So just like you, it's like putting things in place to mitigate those risks. Like what happens if you're late? Blah, blah, blah. Like we put all those measures in as best as we can so you can control that risk.
And one thing that I like to do as well, and I've done this with the unfortunate situation with the flip that I'm going through.
Oh, I want to hear about that too.
Yeah, this is a good transition into this conversation.
Yeah.
So my partner, I think Jared connected us because he's the one that did the first position hard money loan on this flip.
Yeah.
And they originally contacted me to see if I would go second position. But after underwriting the deal and underwriting the operator, I realized that, okay, these guys they don't have the experience in doing flips that I would, feel comfortable lending them money. But he is a general contractor, and he's been one for the last like 13 years. And his niche is with investors. So basically what his pitch was that he's been flipping other people's properties for them, you know what I'm saying, as a general contractor. So I felt really comfortable with his ability to do the rehab, right? So instead of lending him money, because then I don't have control over the property, I proposed a partnership to him rather than just being a second lien position holder. So then I went as an operator on the loan with him on the first position hard money loan, and we just became partners in the deal. And I put up all the money so that at least I have equity and also control over what happens in that deal.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel comfortable lending money, if you have experience, yourself in real estate, maybe it makes sense to propose a partnership on deals where you don't feel comfortable lending.
And then with you going into partner, how did you structure that paperwork? Was it like still the regular mortgage promissory note? Did you create a new LLC and operating agreement?
I already had an LLC because that's the one
Mhm.
that I used to lend the money out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just created an operating agreement that said that we're going to partner on this one deal.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good. Because I see persons would do like a JV agreement, and I've heard like mixed feelings with a JV agreement that sometimes it's not strong enough, especially depends on how much capital that you're bringing to the table. That has a lot to do with it. Might as well you just do an operating agreement so that way you have the entity and all that stuff. So it's way stronger.
Oh, actually, no. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I got mixed up.
Mhm.
We have our separate operating agreements because we have separate LLCs, and we did do
Mhm.
a JV agreement.
JV. So
Yeah,
on that JV, it would show then who's carrying title.
we both carry title.
Oh, oh, you're good.
Yeah.
Oh, then that's amazing. Because that too, like when I mentioned that to people that, hey, on the JV, you can state who's carrying title or both persons can go on title. They're like, you can do that. I'm like, yes, because then a JV agreement is just a JV agreement. But if you don't state who's carrying title for that subject property, then like,
Yeah, it basically just spells it out for the title company so they know
yeah,
who to, write the title for.
for the title. Okay, that makes sense. Was
Yeah.
there like, so because I know that situation, if you can talk, you don't have to go full in details, but I want to talk about what happened and how you're navigating that, how you feel, because you're like, oh, my money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all my money, basically. So, I mean, this flip that I partnered with another investor on. We were done doing the demolition of the property, and we were
Mhm.
basically just waiting on our permit with the city of Tampa to be approved. And I was actually on vacation. I was playing golf in Orlando, and I got a call from my partner, and he calls and says, "Hey, the property burned down." And I was like, "What?" It sounded like he was joking, like I don't know if he had like a nervous laughter or something like that, but it sounded like he was joking, and I didn't believe him at first. And then he sent me a video of the burnt down property. So yeah, our place burnt down. We still don't know why or how it burnt down. The insurance company is still doing their investigation on the cause and origin of the fire.
Mhm.
And you know, I've spoken with my contact from the insurance company, and she kind of gave me some
Right.
confirmation, some reassurance that it looks like it's going to be a full policy limit distribution, but we can't. It's not final yet.
Mhm.
So the hope for me is that we're going to get our full policy amount, which will cover the mortgage, so that we can at least pay the mortgage off. And then what would happen is we would own the property, the land, right? We would still own
Yeah.
the land, and we wouldn't have a mortgage on it. So it could be an
Mhm.
ideal situation because then we just pivot and come up with a different exit strategy.
Strategy. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was really scared at first because I had never been through anything like this. I didn't know, what I had no idea what the insurance policy said.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that you like, for me at least, I never, even if I did try to read it, I don't think I would understand it completely. So I just leave it to the experts,
Mhm.
the insurance policy writers. They secure the binder. The lender makes sure that it fits what their criteria and what they require
Important.
for the property. And as long as that works, then I'm like, yeah, okay, insurance is
Yeah.
good. Check the box for insurance.
No.
So thankfully we did have a good policy, and it looks like it's gonna end up being a positive deal.
And it's crazy because some now like when it comes on to even a fix and flip, as you mentioned, even someone going in second is making sure that they're added to the builder's risk insurance policy as an additional insured. Because like as you said, like those things can happen. Like
Right.
1% chance it can happen, and you don't want it to get to a point where it happened and you're like, only if I knew or I wish I did, you
I
know?
didn't know that until just now, actually.
Yeah. So even
So I
that
should I should be added as an
additional
additional
insured. So
insured.
the one that we did, you're added as an additional insured.
Okay. How do I make sure that if Kalisha is not a part of the deal, that I make sure that that happens?
So you ask for the policy because you most like 99% of the time, if there's a hard money lender involved, you need insurance to close.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then once you get that policy to close, like I think that you can be added before, or sometimes you have to wait until you close for you to be added
If you're in
as an
second
additional
position.
insured. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
just that like we've done it a lot where you close first with the hard money.
Yeah.
And they close with insurance and you wait a little bit. And when you wait a little bit, then the person second goes on additional insured. Because I think it's simply just calling the insurance company or an agent, depending on the relationship that you have, and just ask that entity to be added as an additional insured. And then they send you an updated policy.
The lender does that, or the flipper, the investor
The flipper. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They should normally do it because they have they already have the insurance policy either way.
Yeah. It's a matter of adding another entity.
It's literally calling. Sometimes insurance companies can be a pain because I was doing one and they required so much to add the lender as an additional insured.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello, I'm the one on the policy. I'm asking you to add this person, just add this entity as additional insured. And they required so much stuff, but they finally did it.
Do you think that has anything to do with the first position lender?
It has a lot. And I see now where first position lenders are getting very, very strict with second, meaning, especially if you're doing draws and stuff like that, they are checking to see if there is seconds before they issue draws. So we've been kind of navigating a few situations like those, but thank God we have lenders who are very understanding and be like, oh, I some of them are like, I expected that to happen, but we they work with doing
the first position lender, the hard money.
No, the person second. So what is happening is that like the hard money is saying, hey, you have a second mortgage.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give you any money until you get rid of the second. Either you paid off or you remove that lien from public records. Or you can sign something saying it's called like a subordination agreement or something like that to say that you're handing up the right, like you're giving all rights to the first position, which you're in second. Of course, the first position will have all the rights. Yeah. And so it's just signing that off too.
Yeah, what I just did is I had an investor that I had a second position lien on one of their properties that they were flipping, right? And their first position lender posed that issue that they're not going to give them any more draws for the property that I was lending money for them because I was in second position. So he contacted me and said, can you sign this subordination agreement? And it has so much like attorney lingo in there. I didn't feel comfortable signing it because I didn't like, all right, if this means that this like is like null and void, basically my second lien, then what's my security in the deal? You know? Yeah. So I told him I'm not going to sign this, but what I will do is I'll lend you more money and we can cross collateralize it on a deal that maybe you have already under contract because this is an operator who does a lot of flips. So I figured that they had one under contract that they were, about to sell, where I can lend them the money that they need from the draw on the first property that I lend them money on so that they can finish that. And then I put a second lien position for that amount plus my interest on a different property that they were going to close within the next 30 days.
Yeah.
So that's another creative way to get around that issue and offer some value to these investors that you're lending money to.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, as you said, like the subordination is the lingo on it it's so complicated.
Yeah.
Like we had to get an attorney to review it. And then they're like, it's literally saying that if they have to foreclose, again, I'm put because this is on the internet, we're not giving you guys legal advice. It's just from our experience. But it's literally disclosing that if they have to foreclose, the first position person has the first right. They get paid out first, which technically, if you're in second, that if anything happens, the first lien holder has the right to do anything. Like that's one of the risks when it goes on a second position too.
Yeah, I figured it wasn't anything that, was in bad taste in that subordination agreement.
Mhm.
But I was in a paranoid state because of the
The
situation with the fire.
wording.
So I
Yeah.
wasn't really like trusting anything, especially
Yeah.
attorneys that use words that I don't understand.
Understand? No, and I love that how you just structured it too is actually a great way. So that just registered in my brain because I'm like, oh, if that ever happens, we can always find another property that they have, give them all the money for the rehab, and then cross collateralize something else so they can finish and repay the
Yeah.
entire loan.
And you do that if you trust the operator, and it adds value to them because they don't have to go back and ask for more money.
No money. Yeah.
You give them the full amount that they need up
Hmm.
front, and then they're not having to make draw requests.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got paid like 6% return, but it was within 30 days. So I'm okay with that.
Still better than the stock market.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about like, what kind of return are you making? I put it on an annual basis. If I
Yeah.
made 6% flat on any money that I invested in less than a month, and I can do that for 12 months, that's a good return.
It's
So
a great
yeah,
return.
and that's how I look at it.
Man, what would you say for anyone who is looking to get into the lending space? Like, what's one thing that you would share with anyone?
I think you should either partner with somebody who's a professional that knows what they're doing and they do all the underwriting for you, or make sure that you're investing in people that you trust, like you
Mhm.
trust the flipper. I wouldn't get into it not knowing anything about real estate, not knowing anybody who can
Doing
can
it.
hold your hand through the process,
Yeah.
like what you do with your clients. So if you I would say if you don't have underwriting skills yourself, then find somebody like Kalisha who can help you through that process.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's
No,
crazy because
I mean, you do such a great job at like explaining everything, and I know that
breaking it
you're
down.
confident with your underwriting process as well on the in the background.
Listen, so strict. Shout out to my underwriter.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I can be like, that's my friend, pass that deal through. He's like, nope. You gave me a criteria. It doesn't match this criteria. It's a no. Before I approve this deal, I need XYZ. And I'm like, oh,
Yep. Cut and
but
dry.
yeah, I'm like, you know what? That's what you need.
Yeah.
That's what you need. Because every time, like, if I decide to go around him and just still raise capital for a deal that he didn't pass underwriting, I always have issues with the deal
Right.
every time. And I'm like, yep, follow your process, stick to your
Yeah.
process.
That's what
Just
they're
do
there
it.
for. Systems and
Yep.
processes.
Just follow it. But no, this has been fantastic. Thank you, Jordan, for coming
Do you
on.
have time for one more question?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like I told you before that I'm starting to take money from family and friends,
Mhm.
and helping them invest it as well. What should I look out for? Am I doing anything illegal yet?
Uh, I would say no, because it's family and friends, but at least to save yourself or to protect yourself, rather, is put something in writing.
Okay.
Like, treat them as a private money lender,
Yeah.
where maybe it's a promise. You can just do a promissory note to say you're taking the money for a certain time and you're gonna pay them X, and you sign to it, give it to them. So when that time comes, you pay them their interest and
Right.
principal, and then you ask them like, do you want to reinvest? Because I've done that with family and friends. I had no clue what I was doing at the time,
Yeah.
but Google said you do a promissory note, and we just did a promissory note with them
Yeah.
just to show them that, hey, like, I'm in business, and as much as I'm taking your money, this is how long I'm taking your money for.
Right. But you
Yeah.
don't have to like become a fund or anything like that.
No, because it's people with it that unless you
Yeah.
start like, I would say if you find yourself collecting like a lot of money from different people, let's say 10 people from high school and
Yeah.
college and everyone else fun, then that portion, I would recommend that you reach out to an attorney
Right.
just to see the best way, because then you can create the fund and then you don't have to do like accredited investors or something like that, because again,
Yeah.
the people that are investing with you are friends and family.
Right.
But at least you're protecting yourself with SEC and all that stuff.
So for now, it's basically like they're just lending my LLC money, and
Mhm.
my LLC is then lending that money to real estate deals.
Yeah. So, oh, I love this conversation. So now, because they're lending you the money to your LLC on paper technically is the one making that interest payment.
Right.
So
Right.
you'll be paying taxes on those interests. So if you don't have something to prove that, hey, technically I didn't make all this money, all this interest, I paid out the money somewhere else. So it's like it's a chain where the borrower is going to give you a 1099, I don't know, because you have to fill out a W-2 or a
Yeah.
1099, something to give that borrower. So the borrower to show that they paid you interest. So the borrower is going to record that. But at least you need to have something to protect yourself to say, I paid out this much interest to XYZ.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's going to be very important. So I would
Yeah.
say, like,
From an
you have
accounting
like
standpoint, that's what I should look forward to.
4 months. Just make sure you do it before January 1st.
Yeah.
And because
Okay.
then if you pay out all those interests, and then you also want to make note that when I don't know how you do your bookkeeping, but if the funds go straight to your account, you got to let your bookkeeper know that, hey, this money that just came in, this is not income. This is a loan.
Yeah.
And then they will know how to categorize that entire loan.
Interesting. Okay.
So I'm learning all those stuff from my bookkeeper. When she sees
Yeah.
money going all over in my account, she's like, what is this? And I was like, why? I'm like, wait, my income, it was not this for this month. And then when we checked it, she's like, oh, it was categorized as either rental income or something. And I was like, no, this is a loan. And then she's like, okay, if that's a loan, and she does some crazy thing and categorize it. She's like, when now you repay that loan, let me know, because then I would have to offset it on the books.
Right.
Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, I figured just because the money that would be incoming to my LLC in 4 months, it'll be outgoing at a larger amount. So that wouldn't be. I didn't realize that if it was considered income, if it needed to be considered income or not, if that mattered, because what would be going out of my account would be above what came in from that lender.
Amen. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And as long as you can show like what the interest earned is. So let's say if your income was 10,000, and of that 10,000, 7,000 was interest earned, then technically your regular income might have been 3,000 from that transaction, but at least you're not paying tax for the 7,000 interest earned. You passed that on to someone else, because that 7,000 went back to the person who lent you the money.
Right.
So that messed me up. We're in 2024. It messed me up last year when I started lending, doing this whole connecting thing, and I wasn't categorizing the fees properly. So I end up paying way more taxes on things that I really did not get that money.
Got it. Well, yeah, I'm gonna have to have a conversation with my accountant then.
Yeah, I was like, learning lesson. So now, like, every month I sit with my bookkeeper and I have to go through every single income for all of my bank accounts.
Right.
And then she categorized. So she's getting to a point now where if she sees the same name happening over and over, she knows where that should go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh,
that part.
Yeah. See? This is good.
I love it.
All right. No, this is perfect. This was amazing. And hopefully we get to do this again. I mean, I'll see you around because we're in the same market.
Yes, we are.
This would be good, and this will be up. And I hope you guys enjoy this and found value from it, because I love the last part of this. This was good.
Awesome. Thank you, Kalisha.
All right. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Later.
Bye.